Why do we keep mistaking loud, rule-breaking leaders for strong protectors? Perhaps we need to better understand how the shepherd metaphor reveals the difference between leadership that serves and leadership that exploits, and why learning to recognize that difference may be one of the most important skills we have. Welcome to another bonus edition of the MTB Podcast, a segment of the weekly episode that I call Afterthoughts. This is my favorite part of these weekly presentations because it gives me a chance to dig a little deeper into something that came up during the main episode. You know, there's something deeply human about wanting a protector. When things feel unstable, we don't just want solutions. When the economy is shaky, when the culture feels like it's shifting under our feet, and the future feels uncertain, we want someone strong, someone confident, someone who looks at the chaos and says, "Don't worry, I got this." That instinct, it isn't really a flaw. It's part of how we're wired. For most of human history, survival depended on finding the right people to follow when things got dangerous. And that's exactly why the metaphor we looked at in John chapter 10 during the main episode this week is so powerful. The idea of a shepherd, someone who enters through the gate, someone who is known and trusted, someone who leads rather than forces, that speaks to that instinct of ours in a very healthy way. But the story doesn't just stop there. It also warns us about the other kind of figure, the one who doesn't come through the gate, the one who climbs over, who bypasses the system and still claims to be the protector, the one who sounds like a shepherd but behaves like something else entirely. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. The same instinct that helps us find good leadership can also make us vulnerable to the wrong kind of leadership. And in today's world, where fear and frustration are so easy to amplify, that line between protector and predator gets very blurry very fast. So let's dive into that in this week's episode of Afterthoughts. So in our gospel reading for the main episode this week, in that story, the gate matters. The gate represents legitimacy, process, accountability, the idea that leadership isn't just claimed, it's earned and verified. A true shepherd doesn't need to sneak in or convince you that the system itself is the enemy. A true shepherd operates within the system, even when it's inconvenient, because those structures exist to protect everyone, not just the person in charge. But then there's the other model, right? The leader who tells you, the system is broken, that the rules don't apply, that the only way forward is to ignore the gate entirely. And at first, that can feel compelling. If you already feel like the system isn't working very well for you, hearing someone say, it's rigged and I'm the only one who can fix it, well, that sounds less like a warning and more like a promise. The problem is, once you accept that the gate doesn't matter, you've also accepted that there are no real limits on power. And when a leader starts attacking the referees, the press, the courts, experts, anyone who might challenge them, well, they're not freeing the flock. They're isolating it. They're trying to make themselves the only voice that matters, and that's not protection. That's control. John chapter 10 says, "The sheep follow the voice they recognize," which is fascinating when you think about how leadership works today. It's not just about policies or plans. It's often about tone or identity or emotional resonance. The most influential leaders don't just speak to people. They speak as if they are the people. They blur the line between I will serve you and I am you. That's where things start to change. Think about it. Once a leader becomes the embodiment of the group, well, disagreement with the leader, it isn't just a simple disagreement anymore. It's betrayal. And the language used changes. It stops being about solving problems and starts being about fighting enemies. Suddenly the mission isn't to lead people towards something better. It's protecting them from someone worse. You probably heard that kind of rhetoric before. In fact, you probably hear it all the time, the idea that justice isn't something we build together, but something one person delivers on our behalf. The suggestion that loyalty matters more than truth. Or what about the subtle, or not so subtle, shift from we to me? And a lot of times it's wrapped in language that can feel almost sacred, as if the leader isn't just chosen by voters, but by history, or something even higher, like God. From a humanist perspective, this is where the alarm bells really start to go off. Because what's happening isn't leadership. What's happening is emotional manipulation. It's tapping into fear or anger and identity in a way that short-circuits critical thinking. It's not guiding people. It's activating them in a very negative, detrimental way. Now, the promise in the gospel reading this week is that they will have life and have it to the full. That's a beautiful idea. And it's one that aligns perfectly with a human-centered vision of flourishing, where people have the freedom, safety, and opportunity to live meaningful lives. But here's the question. What are you actually being offered in exchange for your loyalty? Because the strongman version of leadership always involves a trade. You get belonging. You get certainty. Maybe even an external sense of purpose. But only if you stay aligned to the strongman. Only if you don't question too much. Only if you're willing to see the world the way the strongman presents it. And over time, that starts to shrink your world instead of expanding it. You can see it in how some leaders handle crises. When things go wrong, do they step forward and take responsibility? Or do they deflect, minimize, and protect their own image? Do they absorb the pressure for the sake of the people? Or do they use the people as a shield to protect themselves? Because that's the real test. Not the speeches, not the slogans and memes. The real test is what happens when leadership actually costs the leader something. And when the focus changes from the well-being of the community to the preservation of the leader's power, something has gone way off track. At that point, it's no longer about helping people thrive. It's just about maintaining control. One of the biggest differences between the ancient metaphor and our modern reality is this. We're not actually sheep. We're participants. We are decision makers. We are, collectively, the gatekeepers. And that means we have a responsibility, not just to choose leaders, but to evaluate them. Not based on how they make us feel in the moment, but based on what they actually do over time. Do they respect the system, even when it limits them? Do they tell the truth, even when it's inconvenient? Do they take responsibility, even when it costs them something? Because the most important question isn't, do I like this leader? The most important question is this leadership helping people flourish, or just helping one person stay in power? And here's maybe the hardest part. Sometimes the most responsible thing a community can do is recognize when it chose wrong. To step back, reassess, and yes, fire the fucking shepherd. Because the path to anything resembling an abundant life isn't found in following the loudest voice or the strongest personality. It's found in building a community that values truth over comfort, that values accountability over loyalty. And leaders who understand that their role isn't to rule forever, but to serve and eventually to step aside. All right, thanks for joining me for this episode of Afterthoughts. If you want to keep up on everything I'm doing, please head over to thecodaproject.com and subscribe to my newsletter. You'll get notifications whenever I publish anything, and I'll keep you updated on the weekly live streams of Mythologizing the Bible. If you subscribe for free over at The Coda Project, you'll start receiving my publication called The Weekly Compass. This is a brief guide on a single core value. Think of it as a mini lesson plan for personal growth. It's perfect for families, students, and adults because I include discussion questions designed for each age group. As a subscriber, you'll also have access to the Guide to Kitchen Table Activism, which is a detailed resource designed to help you be politically active from your own home. The guide explains why activism is important, the philosophy behind kitchen table activism, and the foundational values it supports, before laying out how to use the tools you have to make your voice heard. It provides tools, tactics, and templates for you to use, and it only takes about 15 minutes a week. If you care about our democracy, our country, and our world, then I encourage you to check it out. While you're at it, make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you'll start receiving my newsletter called The Kitchen Table Activist. Thank you again for listening. Until next time, remember to question everything, keep what's good, and live what matters.